So if we wanted to transition, if the panelists that are around could please turn on their webcams. I have a list of some questions that the attendees have posed. And then again, if you have any others or if you've thought about anything since then, please add them to the questions pane. And if there's enough time, we will make sure to ask them of our panelists. And I just wanted to thank all of our panelists for sticking around and just lending your expertise to this conference. I think that's part of what makes it so interesting is each of you fills such a specific niche within your agency that it's kind of fun to bring you all together to talk about it. So without further ado, the first question I have is for Dr. Campbell. Let me see. And it is it possible to get a link to find where I can purchase a copy of the spraying calendar for 1913? So it sounds like we have some history buffs.
Well, actually, it's a long story, and the answer is there is no link. I've been around so long and been in so many universities that you run across these kinds of things, but I'm sure there could be a way found. So if there's contact information for this, just send me an email and we'll see what we can do.
Thanks, Dr. Campbell. I thought that was kind of a fun one. This question is for Daria. Daria, are there other boring insects that have D-shaped exit holes? And then the comment was, I have seen and treated insect infestations in aspen trees that looked very similar to the EAB exit hole.
You know, not that I'm aware of, but I do focus mostly on invasive insects, so there very well could be others. But traditionally speaking, if you see an ash tree with a D-shaped exit hole, that's enough to be suspicious about for the emerald ash borer. There could be other D-shaped boring insects for other tree species, but definitely if you're looking at an ash tree, that's enough to be suspicious.
Thank you. And then I had another question. Somebody wanted to know if your slides could be shared.
My slides?
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe. Let me check back. I think there's a problem, but I would want to square that away with the city of Tacoma.
Yeah, no problem. And I did remind just everybody that's still on the line that this conference is recorded. So if there is something that you really liked or you wanted to share with your coworkers, we will have that available sometime soon. And then,
that's great. And mostly I'm saying that because it is just a sample inventory. So I want that to be reiterated because those aren't the final numbers for the city of Tacoma. Their complete inventory definitely has more ash. So I wouldn't want there to be speculation about that, but definitely the recording's great.
Perfect. And then I think so far, this is the last one for you, Daria. It was in response to the EAB management portion of your presentation. The individual, they wanted to know why were the individual trees greater than 30 inches in diameter not considered for treatment?
They could be considered for treatment, but cost is exponential when you get over 30 inches in diameter. And really, you're going to want to check the condition of those those trees over 30 inches. We're going to want to look at decline. There's grading scales from decline at increments of 10%, so 10%, 20%, 30%. If the canopy of the tree over 30 inches it's not thinning in its canopy, it could be a contender, but also something to consider is sometimes those larger trees, they don't want to take the insecticide in. So you want to do some spot checks on any larger trees that you're considering. You're probably going to need to drill more holes and administer more application. So it becomes kind of complicated when it's over 30 inches.
Thank you for that clarification. And then this question is for you, Sven. Somebody wanted to know, are there any moths that resemble female gypsy moths in Washington?
Okay, I think you can hear me, but I accidentally clicked the monitor. There we go. So yeah, there's a few. So certainly to the untrained to the untrained eye, there are a number of white moths in the family Geometridae who have similar markings. One where we got a pretty good hatch, although it's much smaller than a female gypsy moth, would be phantom hemlock looper. There were quite a few of those around at everybody's porch lights, especially if you're on the Olympic Peninsula this year. And certainly a couple of others that resemble male gypsy moths as well. Best case scenario, just listen to what Justin said. If you're not sure, take a photo, send it in. If you can get a specimen, even better. But you know, we're always happy to do an ID, as are most of the folks on this call.
Thank you. The next question that I had is for Aaron and or Randy, or you both could do it. I get the sense that ICS could help if an invasive species spreads onto tribal lands. Yes? Question mark. Oh, Randy, you might be muted.
The double mute always gets me. I can start us out and then I hand it over to Aaron. But yes, I know that a lot of our tribal partners do implement ICS because of their work with the federal government and the federal requirement for federal agencies to use ICS in their planning and coordination efforts. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's obviously up to them if they wish to implement it or not. But yes, it does very much assist in the coordination pieces with the feds. Aaron, anything else on that?
I would just say that to the example that we're currently working at the State Emergency Operations Center from the wildfire impacts, we have a multi-jurisdictional, multi-agency situation with local, county, as well as tribal partners and the state with some outside support from USDA. And that is all coordinated right now under this kind of structure of ICS, and that has been helpful. So I think scaling it down to working just on tribal partners or just understanding the fact that often any sort of incident does span across jurisdictions, it is helpful as a standardized approach.
Yeah. And just to add to that real quickly too, in the wildfire situation that we're seeing, because it's just so multi-jurisdictional because of how it burned, we are seeing a lot of tribal coordination with the county emergency management folks, and then that gets passed up through the State Emergency Operations Center and then to the feds, et cetera. So to Aaron's point, yeah, there's a lot of multi-jurisdictional pieces to that, and county is one of those key pieces.
Thank you. This question, I'm assuming it's for you, Justin. I think it was a clarifying question. Are freshwater mussels and clams the only, or invasive freshwater mussels and clams the only ones that have byssal threads, or are byssal threads found on marine clams as well?
It's a good question. In freshwater systems in Washington, there are no mussels that attach to hard surfaces with byssal threads. So that should be definitely what everyone's alert for. Marine species, I believe the answer is yes, but I'm by no means a technical expert in anything. So if you want to shoot me an email about that, I'd love to connect with some of the marine folks at the Department of Fish and Wildlife to help answer that question fully. But my answer is I believe there are marine species with byssal threads. And before we move too far, can I get all the panelists to say smile and wave like on 3, and I'll take a screenshot? We'll go 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Those have turned out pretty fun. I saw the one from Tuesday. Sven, I have this is the last question that I had ahead of time, and this one was for you. And I think it was in regards to the snails. When he encountered a legal barrier to deploying steam to the snail site, don't most counties have an exemption for some of those permitting requirements for invasive species, if not for invasive animals? And what advice would you have getting that type of assistance for other people doing this work in critical areas?
Okay, I wish it was as easy as just getting a county permit in this case. So with the snails, it's actually super special because we're at the Port of Tacoma which the city of Tacoma has a little skin in the game here, being one of the governing entities for it. And we were able to get a permit through with the city of Tacoma. But again, at the end of the day, what really held everything up was dealing with the EPA, who was seeking advice from the U.S. Department of Justice. And to be honest, we thought this was going to be a cakewalk, because basically we were adding hot air water to water, but it really did unfortunately get complicated. So my advice is just be absolutely dogged with your pursuit of getting it done, and just because you get told no one time does not necessarily mean you can't track down the people responsible for saying no. 9 times out of 10, they were looking at 50,000 permits that day, and yours was just a red stamp in a pile of paperwork for them. And so be persistent, get in their face completely, or continuous.
That was a little delayed, but I think your main points were: be persistent, make sure that they know that there's a problem, and don't be surprised if you get told no and then come back and try again. Would I be correct in that? Okay, perfect. Thank you, Sven.